what's going on? It's Ben here. I am back again today doing another video. The subject of today's video is going to be on bold predictions for the 2021 NBA season. Basically, I'm going to run down 5 hot takes that I have for this upcoming season and basically give some context around why I believe these things will happen. And they're really in no particular order, so there's no reason why I'm picking one first over the other. So my first one is that this is probably the least hot take of any of them, but the first one is going to be that the Milwaukee Bucks will again not make the NBA Finals. I really don't feel confident in this Bucks team whatsoever, honestly. I think the Jrue Holiday move is very overrated. I do not think he was worth Bledsoe and essentially what is going to turn out to be like 5 first-round picks if you include the pick swaps. I looked at the stats between Bledsoe and Holiday, and I get that Bledsoe is a worse playoff performer, and Holiday has had a couple of good playoff series, but honestly, as far as overall production during the regular season, Jrue Holiday is a first-team all-defense player, so is Eric Bledsoe. Jrue Holiday's stat line is essentially 19 points a game, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists. Bledsoe's is essentially 16 points per game, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. So about 3 points less per game, but plays relatively similar defense, like still a really good defender. Not as good as Holiday, but still pretty good. Shoot the same efficiencies pretty much from the field and put up pretty much exactly the same numbers. So I really think that Jrue Holiday acquisition is pretty overrated. I don't think it's really going to move the needle for the Bucks at all. Honestly, I don't think they really improved necessarily during this offseason. I think they improved marginally. That's all I'll say. I also think you have to take into consideration that Jrue Holiday's found his most success the last 3 seasons not playing point guard. He's been a shooting guard, and now they're forcing him to play point guard again, which he stated is his less preferred position. And he thinks that he plays a lot better with the ball out of his hands more of the time, but now they're going to revert that and make him be the primary point guard. So, he's had his best seasons not being a point guard, so I think that will kind of neutralize his improvement over Bledsoe too. So I really think that they'll pretty much be the same team, and I don't know if they'll lose in the second round of the conference finals, but I don't think that they're going to get to the NBA finals. I think the East is too talented this year. My second hot take is that the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be the 2 seed in the East. This is getting into a much more hotter take category, I would say. It's much more bold. I really like what Philly did this offseason, essentially trading Al Horford trading Al Horford and Josh Richardson for Seth Curry and Danny Green, who fit a lot better with this team. You get a lot more spacing. Horford didn't fit well as a power forward. Tobias Harris didn't like playing small forward. He's much more of a spacing power forward type, so he gets to slide back to that 4. You insert Danny Green as your 3, Curry as your 2, and then Ben Simmons as the point guard. A bench of Shake Milton still and Dwight Howard. Those are kind of the standouts off the bench. And Matisse Thybulle. They may start Thybulle over Curry and then bring Curry in as kind of like a combo guard off the bench, but that's debatable what they'll do there. But that's essentially your 8-man rotation. Simmons, Green, Thybulle, Curry, Milton, Embiid, Harris, and Dwight. And I think the lineup is so much better spaced. You basically are bringing back the team from 2017 to 18 when Philly was doing really well. And you're basically plugging in Green, Curry, and Harris in exchange for Saric, Covington, and J.J. Redick. And I would say it's pretty much a wash. They're pretty much even, but I think Simmons and Embiid will be better players than they were then. They're older, more mature. They have higher basketball IQs. They are less injury prone, as in Embiid doesn't have to have the training wheels on him as much. And yeah, I think that they won't necessarily make the finals or anything, but I think that they will have a really good regular season. They'll be rested, and Embiid apparently is focusing a lot more on his nutrition, which I think will a big issue for him has been his physique and like how in shape or out of shape he's been in. And I think now that he will be in shape, that'll help him a lot. So I'm thinking they will be the 2 seed. My next hot take is again in the East, and it's that I am predicting the Miami Heat, the reigning Eastern Conference champions, I'm predicting them to lose in the first round, and here's why. Last year, the Miami Heat did not really care about regular season wins. They were the 5th seed. Their philosophy was essentially, hey, we're going to kind of cruise in the regular season, and then we'll turn it up a notch in the playoffs. I don't think that'll work this year. I think the East is quite a bit better than it was last year. The Nets, for one, I think will be a better team than in the standings. I'm predicting Miami to be around like the 5th or 6th seed again, but I don't think that they'll get the pleasantry of playing Indiana, who is a pretty weak 4 seed. I think that they'll probably have to face like Boston or, as I'm predicting them, to play Brooklyn in the first round. And I think that they would lose to either of those 2 teams this year. And it's not like Miami got any worse. They're pretty much the same exact team. But I just think that teams like Brooklyn will be better if they were to face them. And even Boston, I think, will be pretty much the same team. I was going to say maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit worse, depending on how healthy Kemba is. But I still think that when push comes to shove, that Miami is just I think that they're more playing for the season after this one than this season. I don't think that they expect themselves to win a championship this year, so I think they're kind of taking it easy until the 2021 offseason, which I think will result in them getting bounced in the first round. My next prediction is that in the West, the Rockets will finish as a higher seed in the standings than both the Suns and the Pelicans. And here's why. I think that Houston's season plays out one of 2 ways. Number one, I think the simpler route is that like Harden basically just decides to get over it and accept that they're not going to trade him, and he decides to play this year. And even if he like is really lazy and doesn't try hard, he'll still put up like 25 points a game, which would be pretty low for him in recent years, but still like pretty good contributions. And, I think that DeMarcus Cousins will not be all-star DeMarcus Cousins, but I think he'll be like a solid 16 points, 8 rebounds. I don't think John Wall will be all-star John Wall, but I think he'll also be like a really solid like 16 to 17 points and like 8 assists a night. And I think that those are really 2 solid players, along with Christian Wood, who will probably put up around 15 points a game and like 10 rebounds, I expect, along with some still really good other players on this team like Tucker, Gordon, and House. I really like that. What is that, like a 6-7 man rotation right there? And I think it's still pretty talented. And then if that were the case, I can still see the Rockets being like a 6 or 7 seed. And even if they do trade Harden, and let's say they trade him to the Nets for that package of like Dinwiddie, LeVert, and Jarrett Allen, I do still like a rotation of something like John Wall, the starting lineup being something like John Wall, LeVert, Danuel House, probably going to be PJ Tucker and Christian Wood, with a bench of like DeMarcus Cousins, Eric Gordon, Jarrett Allen, and Dinwiddie. That is a really deep team still, and so I think that they still do have a good core. Besides that, the reason why I'm saying New Orleans, I don't think that they'll be that high. They honestly were not good last year, and they were, I think, like the 13th or 14th seed in the West before Zion came back. And even when he came back, they were still like, even playing with him, they were like a 500 team. I don't know. I think that it's a downgrade to go from Holiday to Eric Bledsoe, a minor downgrade, but a downgrade. And this team just has like terrible spacing. When you think of a lineup that's going to consist of, probably one of their main lineups will be something like Bledsoe, Lonzo, Ingram, Zion, and Steven Adams. Lonzo is like an average shooter at best. Same sort of thing with like Bledsoe, like an average shooter. Zion, I don't think, can space it well. Neither can Adams. And then, again, Brandon Ingram's like maybe a little bit above average three-point shooter, but the spacing just will not be very good. And they lost some nice veterans like Derek Favors and Etuan Moore and Darius Miller, who their on-court production wasn't great necessarily, but they were just like the consummate professionals kind of thing that were good locker room presences. And I think Steven Adams is a good locker room presence, and Bledsoe is probably a neutral one, but I don't know. It just seems like they're really buying into the youth, and I just see them as more like a 10 or 11 seed rather than like a 7 seed. I think that Zion is going to be kind of gingerly treated again this year too after 10 games when they see that he's already a little fragile. And then as for Phoenix, I think people are really overrating this bubble stretch that they went 8-0 in the bubble. It's like, okay, let's look at that bubble stretch. They basically played mediocre teams, and then they played like the Clippers. That was like their signature win in the bubble, is that they beat the Clippers. But let's also remember, the Clippers didn't have Lou Williams. The Clippers had an in and out. They didn't have Patrick Beverley. He was in and out of the lineup and didn't really play until the playoffs started. And then also they didn't have Montrezl Harrell. So arguably that's like 3 of their top 7 players weren't even playing. Yes, they still beat a team with Kawhi and Paul George, but I think we can all agree that the Clippers of the bubble were not the Clippers that they were during the regular season. And so I don't even give that win that much credit. So I don't think that this bubble run of 8-0 was all that it was cracked up to be. And people are kind of anointing them as like the young upstart team in the West, but let's remember a few key things. Devin Booker, before this season of the bubble, the best he had ever done on a team was 24 wins. I do think he has a lot of skill and is still improving and is a really nice young shooting guard. I actually love DeAndre Ayton. Chris Paul, I love him as a player. I do think that we're a little bit overrating him, though. I think that people kind of fell in love with his narrative last year more so than what he was as a player. Statistically, he put up the 3rd worst season of his career. And, in 2018 to 19, he put up the 2nd worst season of his career. So I think we're all just kind of forgetting, like, this is a dude who his last 2 seasons have been his 2nd worst ever and his 3rd worst ever, besides his rookie year. It's the worst he's been since he was a rookie. And I think he is still physically declining, and he's going to be 35 this year, and I don't know. People acted like he led the Thunder to like the finals last year. They made the first round and pushed it to 7 games because Russell Westbrook missed half the series. Like, this could have been a sweep if Russell Westbrook played, because remember, the Rockets were up 2-0 and then the Thunder got some momentum back, all in the games that Westbrook was missing. So I also don't really love the roster besides those 3 dudes. Like, are we convinced Mikal Bridges is ready to be like a full-time 30-plus minutes a night starter on a playoff team? I don't know. Are we convinced that Cam Johnson, who had a okay year last year and was decent in the bubble, and when I say decent, I mean like not like he averaged 20 points a game decent, like he was just an all-right starter decent, and he was basically an average NBA starter in the bubble. But now we're convinced like he's ready to play 30-plus minutes a game on a playoff team. I do like the acquisition of Jay Crowder. It's unfortunate that they had to let Baines go. Basically, it's like when you look at the 5-man unit of, I'm not convinced on some of the dudes on the team. Again, Jay Crowder, he's another dude who I like, but he also, for every good season he has a bad season. Like 2017, he's great in Boston. 2018, he's bad in Cleveland. 2019, he's okay in Utah. 2020, he's pretty much bad the whole season until the playoffs and the bubble when he played really well. So he's a really mixed bag, and you take the good with the bad, but you really don't ever know what you're going to get with him. So take that for what you will. I'm just not sold on the team, and the depth is, I think, an issue, and for that reason, I think the Rockets will again still be the better team in the regular season. My last bold prediction: This one's really out there. Don't know if this would come to fruition ever. Probably won't. It's that Dame Lillard will win MVP. I do think that the Blazers will be a top 4 seed in the West. They've got a lot of depth this year. They've got a lot of nice pieces that they added, like they re-signed Rodney Hood. Gary Trent is coming into his own. They brought back Carmelo Anthony. They brought in Harry Giles. They brought in Enes Kanter to be a nice backup. Yusuf Nurkic is finally healthy. Robert Covington, they traded for him. A lot of good moves that they made during the offseason, and so I think that they will be a 4 seed in the West. I think Dame Lillard will still put up numbers close to like 27 and 8, and I think he's got a shot at MVP, and I'm thinking he's going to win it, because I think the only other competition to me would be Doncic, and I think, to me, whoever finishes as a higher seed between the Mavericks and the Blazers, that's who's going to win MVP. And because Porzingis is going to miss some time, I'm predicting the Blazers to be the higher seed. So I'm predicting Dame Lillard to win MVP. So those are my 5 bold predictions. To review really quickly, I'm predicting the Bucks won't make the finals. Miami's going to lose in the first round. Philly's going to be a 2 seed. The Rockets will be a higher seed than New Orleans or Phoenix. And then Dame Lillard is going to be our MVP. There you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you next time. Have a good day. Bye.